Hey there, welcome back to SureFire Live. I'm your host, Mark Stoner, and I'm coming to you from a hotel room in Indianapolis or in the Indianapolis area. I'm at Chimney Safety Institute of America board meeting, so I had to take SureFire on the road, which is fun yet challenging. I hope I have a decent internet connection. So thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight I have a guest, Pierre from New England Chimney Supply, and I want to make sure I say his last name right, but Simard, I believe, is right. And I've known Pierre for a long time, but we always see each other in passing, so I'm looking forward to getting to know him a little bit better. And if you don't know him, it's a great chance to ask him questions. Remember, this is a live show, and I welcome comments, and I want people to say hi and welcome, and we go back and forth. And right off the bat, we got Cody Whitwood coming on, and welcome to another episode of Chimney Time with Mark. So Dave Levitt, he says the ice water looked cold, Mark. So if you didn't see that, for the Sweep Away Cancer, we were really trying to raise money with an ice bucket challenge, kind of reminiscent of a couple years ago. And we'll do anything to raise money. And man, the industry really turned out and gave a lot of money. In fact, we raised almost $20,000. And a lot of it was today, last second donations. We're kind of competitive, and a lot of the people on the board got really competitive, trying to raise money to give it away. And, some of our awards are $5,000. If you're in the chimney industry and you have a need, that's $5,000. And then it depends on how close to the industry they are. But, that can let us give 4 gifts away, or could give 10 gifts of $2,000 away. And we really appreciate the people who donated. And if you want to see us get dunked, or not dunked, ice going over our heads. And man, I wasn't ready. I just wasn't ready. It was way colder than I thought it was going to be, but I was very exhilarated afterwards. And Taylor Hill was the person who was behind me dunking, putting the ice water on me. And he decided, I didn't know this, but he had a long grudge when he was a kid. He was on a swim team, and somebody did it to him really slowly. So he did it to me really slowly. So, but I feel great afterwards. I don't really like ice water, but it was a great thing. And so, Dave Levitt, yes, that water was super cold. But again, thank you so much for allowing, we're going to help a lot of people with this money, and a lot of people came in a very big way. So super fun. That being said, all right, let's move on to our guest. So here he comes. Hey, Pierre, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Great. Thank you for joining us tonight. So I want to know about you, what you guys do, what makes you tick, what makes you different. And I usually start with a comment or a question about, how did you find this crazy business of chimneys? How did this happen?
Well, it started way back in 1996, and basically I got into the industry with another company, and was there for like 13 years, and then ended up going on our own in 2010, and here we are in 2021, and it's been a wild ride, but it's been fantastic. Love the industry. When we went out on our own, we weren't sure if we were going to stay in the industry or look to start something different, and decided that we love the people, love the industry, and dove right back in.
So what's your background? Like, where do you come from? What part of this country are you from? Like, who are you?
Well, I was born and raised in Vermont, which is where we obviously reside now and where the corporate office is for New England Chimney Supply. I've spent my whole life in Vermont. However, I went to school in New York I was over there for about 4 years and then was down in Maryland for a couple years and then moved back here. Went down to Maryland. My fiance at the time, who's obviously now my wife, was attending grad school, got her master's in deaf education. So I followed her down there and came back to Vermont where, I was born and raised. So
I love Vermont. It's so beautiful, and that's a great state. So you have some family in the business too. I believe I met your brother at some events.
yep. Yeah, my brother's, is a territory manager for us, sales rep. My dad's been in the industry for almost as long as I have. He's always been on board doing some marketing and business consulting for us. My mom worked in the business. My wife is my partner in the business and is
Oh, wow.
our vice president of administration with the company. So yeah, it's a family affair. Love it and wouldn't do anything different.
So tell me what you guys have going on. Like what I know one of your products is Best Flex. Tell me about your products and why they're great. What kind of warranties you have. How do you back up your products? That kind of thing.
Well, we've got a lot of very similar products in the industry. We've got what I would call our three uniques are, design, concept to design, in-house, meaning that, we've got some great minds that have been in the industry for, 30, 40 years. So, when we come up with new things, we design them in-house. We've got our vice president of production used to be an architect, so he does everything in AutoCAD. So we do everything, do the designs, build the equipment, design the tooling, and then, trial and error, R&D, and then, hopefully bring something that's, above and beyond to the market. So, that's one of our uniques. One of our, I think our strongest unique is that we, the dedication to live our core values. We've got 5 core values. Our first is honesty, integrity, pride in our company and products, self-improvement and growth-oriented, committed, hardworking, and excellence in service. So those are our 5 core values, but it's not just fluff. We hire, fire, reward, recognize based on those core values. And, we have monthly best team member meetings. We actually pay people to know those core values at those meetings. So we'll call on just anybody and ask them to, give us what is our first core value or what's our second core value. And more importantly, not just knowing it, but give us an example of who's exhibited that core value over the past 30 days. And then we get little bonuses for that. And then we pick a best team member every month who gets a paid day off, a $100 gift card, and a parking spot. Because we believe so diligently in living our core values that we really want our team to understand that and live that, and which is why I think we do what we do so well. Everybody does understand those core values, the pride and the excellence in service and the committed and hardworking, and it shows in everyday work from our team.
So let me ask you something about developing core values and kind of a leadership thing for you. At what point did you find how important developing core values were, and then how did you develop them? And clearly you live them out. And I see Christina says, one important thing she says here is repeating them over and over. But from a leadership point and people that are, trying to build a company, when did you realize how important core values were? And then what was the exercise of the process in getting those ingrained in your company?
Well, to be honest with you, the light bulb kind of went off for me. I think it was back in either 2010 or 2011. I was fortunate enough to attend Lindeman University. And they had, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but they had a representative from EOS there, the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Todd Smart.
What's that?
Todd Smart.
Todd, so that's who it was, Todd. And, that really struck a chord with me. We did some exercises, and I came home from that, and we implemented EOS shortly thereafter, although we self-implemented. So it was kind of a slow burn for a while, but we are now fully implemented top to bottom. We have our obviously sales and marketing. We have our liner department and two different manufacturings, regular components and then custom and caps. And we've got our warehouse and our driver team. And then we also have our department heads and leadership. And every one of those has a weekly level 10 meeting, which is based on the EOS system, which is, if you're going to take the time to have a meeting, make sure it's rated a 10. It's a level 10 meeting every week so that we're spending a lot of time in meetings. We identify, discuss, and solve issues, open and honest, and everybody's got a voice. It gives every single person in our company a voice at their meeting every week, and it just gets elevated up to the meetings above if the problems can't get solved. But so from that Lindemann interview university, I took that home, and we started implementing, and then here we are 10, 11 years later, and fully implemented. We have an integrator we have an integrator in our company, but we have an implementer that actually does our annual 2-day offsite, Bernadette Bolton, and she's familiar with the chimney industry. She's got a bunch of clients in the industry, and it's just fantastic. It's like I said, the biggest thing is just every person in the company has a voice, and their voice is in that meeting. So it's fantastic to just see the traction that you get. I attend every one of those meetings, and try to help orchestrate and listen, and move the meeting along in a positive fashion. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, that book by Gino Wickman, the Traction book, if you're listening and you want a book to read on systems and meetings, Traction is a great book for that. And I took a lot away from that meeting too. It helped me understand. We started doing level 10 meetings. And if you haven't read the book or don't understand kind of what that means, they discuss them, they call them rocks. And a quick analogy or what they talked about in the book is when if you've got there's an old example of you've got a like say a big glass jar, and then they put the big rocks in it, and they say, hey, is this full? And everybody says yes, it's full. And then they come in with smaller pebbles and dump it, and they go between the rocks and fill it up, say, is this full? And they say, everybody says yeah. And then they take sand and fill it all the way to the top, say, is this full? Yes. And then lastly, they bring in water and they fill it up, and now it's full. And the point of it is, if you don't get the big rocks in first, if you don't get those big things in every quarter, you won't get them done, because all of our time, all of our everything is filled up. And I think that's what those meetings are about, right? You have your big quarterly rocks that you've got to get done, and everybody's responsible. Is that how you do it?
Absolutely. Yep. You've got 90-day rocks, obviously quarterly. Weekly to-dos, and really the whole premise on the system is accountability, right? So, every week you're solving issues, and you're attacking issues and challenges, and generally to-dos come out of those. So, Mark, you have to, check with a vendor on X, Y, and Z, and next week you have to come back to that meeting and say, Mark, did you check with them? Yes. Right. And you have to report, and you're in front of your peers saying, yes, I got my to-dos done. And if you're not, well, there's an issue, and then you talk about why that didn't happen or whatnot. So, it just the level that it raises accountability is phenomenal.
100%. So, what's been, as you've led and grown a company like this, you were not a chimney sweep before, correct?
I was not. Nope. I joined the ranks right out of college. Dove into I was the company I was with prior to this. I was an office administration person, and then went into doing some deliveries, then sales, and then opened up the Northeast distribution center for that company and the whole manufacturing division. And then obviously, struck out on our own and continued the same trend. And yeah, we're up to like 107 employees, and
Well, congratulations. So clearly, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't sound like you came from a true leadership background. It's almost like you got into leadership and had to figure it out. Is that accurate, or did you have some training in this? Because managing 7 people, that's a big deal.
It is, and no formal training. I believe very strongly in reading, reading on a regular basis, business and mentoring and positive reinforcement materials. I probably listen. I actually listen more than I read, but probably at least a couple books a week. And so I've taken a lot. I've obviously had a great mentor in my father, who's always, I think he had me read The Power of Positive Thinking when I was about 8 years old. So that sticks with you. I'm a guy that believes in, pooling the people around me, recruiting people that are better than I am, and then listening to them and making decisions kind of as a group, not a democracy, but as a group, everybody gets to voice their opinion, and then we try to make decisions what are best for the company to move forward. And I've done that since early on, and it's paid off in dividends because everybody has a hand in where the company is going. They get their opinions get heard, and we move forward with what I think are logical logical solutions for issues that we come up with.
So do you, it sounds like, you really you're a lot team based. I mean, it sounds like you very much believe in your team and using those to drive your company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got every week we have a department head, which is every department head of all those departments we talked about earlier, liner and warehouse and manufacturing and marketing and sales. And then we have a leadership team who's a core group of, there's 8 of us that sit on that team. And we sit and game plan, once a quarter we have an off-site meeting, and then once a year we have a 2-day off-site meeting, and we set the goals for the company where we want to be for in the next year, 3 years, 10 years, and then we monitor it all the way along. But that leadership team is really the steers the ship, if you will. We talk about things. At the end of the day, there's really, if need be, there's one person that makes the decision. But at the end of the day, it's a group that if you're open and honest and solving issues, then you're all rowing in the same direction. And it's not just as much rowing in the same direction. You're rowing in unison, because you're rowing the same direction, but if one person's just got their oar in the water, well, guess what? You're not as efficient as you could be. So we really focus on that.
Cody Whitwood says, giving the feeling of value to your employees breeds success in the company. And I love that statement. How do you, I'm sure you agree with it, but what are some of the things you do to, show your value, show that you value your employees so that they, show up every day and give you their best?
Well, I mean, the first and foremost is the weekly meeting. I mean, every department has a meeting, which I sit in on. So they've got the owner of the company sitting in with them, listening to, what they feel are challenges and issues, helping them solve them, hearing it right from the top. And then, pushing it to different departments. If there's an issue and that needs to be solved elsewhere, we push it to other departments, and I sit in those meetings. So there's not a lot of companies out there that, with 107 employees, that every single one of those employees gets my ear for an hour a week. Which is a big time commitment on my end, but I can tell you what, it pays off in dividends. So they feel appreciated that way. And then we every single month on the first Friday of the month, we do a best team member meeting, which is the whole company stops what it's doing. We don't answer phones. We don't do anything. We talk about the successes for the month. We talk about some of the issues that we need to work on, whether, I like to call it a housekeeping section, whether it's just simply, cleanliness of bathrooms or whatnot. But and at the end of that, we talk about our core values. So we go through our core values, and everybody has to be able to name them and pick somebody who exhibited them for the last month. But at the end of the day, we pick one or two team members that exhibited our core values above and beyond, and they get recognized in front of the whole company. And that, and then we have a best team member board. So that's posted right up where everybody can see it. And we've got pictures and the month that they got it, and it stays there for basically a full year. And again, we just keep doing it every month. So they've got a voice, they've got my ear, they've got recognition every month in front of the whole team.
That's great. I think it's very important to build them, and then publicly recognize them. Some people don't like to be publicly recognized. Some people, but in general, people do. They like to be recognized in some way. And I think what you said about giving them some of your real time, and they really do. You have an outlet for them to listen to. Everybody likes to talk to the boss. Everybody likes to feel heard in a company in different ways. So I think that's great. To switch gears on you a little bit, where do you see, you deal with a lot of customers and a lot of chimney companies. Where do you see the biggest weakness in companies, or the biggest areas that chimney companies could improve in? Because I would assume you deal with a lot of other companies that are not chimney companies, maybe HVAC and other types of companies. And then we chimney guys are a little bit different. We're a little bit, I don't know, we're a tighter unit, but in some ways we're way behind the times. In other ways, we're really always innovating. What do you see as some of the things that chimney companies could improve on?
Well, I mean, I think you guys at SureFire have really hit it on the head. Getting the ability to fluctuate with the cyclicalness of our business. Obviously to bring a tech on and get them trained and up to speed and out on the road for busy season, isn't a 2-week thing. So education, training, that is really one of the areas that everybody really needs to focus on, because, when it comes to busy season, 7 days a week, you only can do what you can do. So the only way to grow is to put crews on the road. So how do you put crews on the road in the most efficient way? Education and training. And the SureFire platform is a fantastic way to do that. It's not, you can get everybody up to speed with the different modules and going, and then get them on the road to help out and, get some, on the road experience. But, that foundation is what's key. So, our industry.
Well, you were an early supporter, so thank you for that. We were just trying to roll it out. Jake had reached out to you, and you were quick to say, yeah, sounds like a great idea, and I'll support any way I can. And you created a scholarship, right, for you guys, for education.
Right. So, there are many platforms, obviously, that are fantastic out there. There's not just one, but our true belief is that education is the future of our industry. With the different regulations and units coming out and efficiencies, and more education is definitely better than less. So we came out with what we call our Best Education Scholarship Program, which is, when you do business with us, we will actually rebate back 1% of your annual spend with us towards education, whether that's with SureFire or NCSG or CSIA, whatever it happens to be. We'll educate it. We'll rebate you back 1%. So that's how much we believe in education and having our clients reach out and get their teams educated and further themselves. And again, it's part of our core values: self-improvement, growth oriented, right? It's one of our core values. So that's kind of the way we give back for that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And when you look at how far our industry has come in the last 10 years, it's pretty amazing. We are a lot better. There's a lot more education out there. The technicians are so much more educated. I think, I said this quite a bit. I think our technical ability, it has gone up. I think it's gone up faster than our business our business ability, like how to grow business, how to lead people, how to have, companies that are legitimate companies instead of the, your job and your truck, and, you can't sell it for much. So where do you see our industry going? If you could look out 10 years, what do you think some of the challenges might be, and where do you think some of the hot spots might be?
Well, I mean, I think the challenges are just what you said. It seems to be evolving away from the owner operator type companies, which is there's nothing wrong with that, but it's a lot in today's day and age to take the call, schedule the work, go out and do the work. So you're seeing a lot more companies get office managers, get some sort of office space, even some warehousing, and grow their business. 2, 3, 4 trucks, 10 trucks, 20 trucks. But it's like anything else. The foundations are what is the most significant thing you can do. So you have to walk before you can run, and you have to build the foundations, and you have to set things up so that you can handle the growth that is going to come. But mostly the changing regulations and the changing of the units and the higher efficiency units, and understanding that it's the chimney is a whole system. It's not just the venting. It's the structure itself. It's making it watertight. It's doing all the things that need to happen all the way around. And and I think that's really where the growth and the in the future of the industry is that the education of the public and the education of the technicians is ever increasing. So people are understanding that my chimney hasn't had anything done to it for 30 years, but maybe it's time to think about what that system is and what it needs to be, and can it perform its intended function. So
Yeah, I agree completely. Do you see any areas that are dying, that are, there are old standards and people maybe hanging on to them, but you see from a supplier side that, hey, that's trending down, and that's probably not going to be around in the next 10, 20 years? Is there anything that sticks out like that?
Well, what we're seeing is you're seeing a lot less new construction chimneys built with flue tiles. Masons are starting to learn that flue tiles are great for a time in our past, but to make it long term and sustainable, the flue tile system isn't really what it used to be.
Right.
So you're really starting to see masons do more and more chimney work. Or refer it out to a company near them that, hey, we're gonna build this chimney. Let's build it from the as we build it, let's put rigid in, or let's put a flex liner in, or let's coat it with fire guard, or
Right.
what have you. So
Yeah, so I completely agree with that as well. We don't see it. We're seeing a lot more gas. We're seeing more direct vent installations. We're seeing more electric installations. And, I just think that, as an industry, we have to understand to position ourselves, where the puck is going, because we as an industry are super talented. We're very innovative. We're not afraid to work hard, but we just don't want to get outfoxed on what's coming, because it's a gold mine in the blue collar world. It is absolutely, but you just have to make sure your bus can handle different types of work and don't just get stuck on certain things. Understand, if you're getting a lot of phone calls for certain kind of services, you might need to move it. So, and I know I told you we'd be about 30 minutes, and I know we're closing in on that. What's the future for New England Chimney Supply? What are you guys looking forward to? What's on the horizon?
We're kind of focused on what we do well, right? I mean, our core competency is chimney liner and chimney lining systems, which is why we acquired Fire Safe Industries and Fire Guard / Chamber Guard. It was a year in March that we've owned them, and people have asked me, why would you buy something that competes with stainless steel? And the answer is, our core competency is chimney liners. So, fire guard's a lining system. So, that's why we dove into that. There's a need for it. For us, we're just gonna, we're gonna keep doing what we do. We, continue to try to improve, get better. We're growing at an unprecedented rate. And, thanks to our team and our foundations that we, are the growth that we've experienced in the last 4 years probably would choke most horses. But, thankfully we have surrounded ourselves with great people and great teams and built those foundations. So, while we've grown at exponential rates, our clientele haven't noticed that. So the service hasn't let down. So, bottom line is we're going to keep building our teams and keep focused on what we do and not focus on shiny stuff, stay focused in our industry and keep going.
I'm bad about focusing on shiny stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. It's hard. Believe me.
Yeah. So, what about, some of the inflationary things that are happening with steel and raw materials and supply chain? What should our industry expect, in the next 6 months to a year, do you think?
Oh, it's wow. That's a good one, Mark. It's almost daily we're getting notifications from our vendors, like Gray Metal and Imperial, which, do a lot of galvanized pipe and black 24 gauge black pipe. And, they're like, hey, I know we had a price increase in March, but we got another 20% coming June 1st. So I don't know, to be honest with you. It's a little mind-boggling what the whole industry is doing. At the end of the day, COVID has been, it's been a very interesting time for the service industry, as everybody knows. Who would have guessed that COVID would have resulted in the kind of increase in home improvements and whatnot that it was? But there's this lag from everything that has happened with it, and the supply chain, the shipping, everything is it's very much up in the air. We have been very fortunate and invested a lot of money in inventory to make sure that we didn't have any shortfalls and won't have any shortfalls. But that being said, it's literally a daily struggle to make sure that we have enough material coming. We always plan on building by September 30th. We want 100% of our busy season needs. So from, October 1st through December on the shelf. So it's a struggle this year. It really is getting the material and mostly because of the growth, we're selling it as fast as we can make it. So it's kind of hard to build inventory, but, we're doing things, putting second shifts on, and giving unlimited overtime to our teams. However, that's definitely work-life balance, and we don't want to burn people out. But same token, we have to figure out what we need to do to get that done, so that our clients don't see a gap in service when it comes to busy season.
I think, and I think a gap in service is big. I think we all should probably expect a price increase from our vendors, and I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying, if you're trying to really understand what's happening, everybody's getting squeezed. And so I think as an industry, we all need to probably get ready to raise our prices at least 10%, if not more, to cover a lot of the hard cost change, a lot of the delay. And I would just, I'm just expecting that. Would you say that's a fair, or that's
I'd say that. Yeah, I'd say that's totally fair. We've had steel increases of anywhere from 15 to 40%, since January. So, if we didn't pass on a price increase, then we were gouging to start with. So you can pretty much plan on there's a price increase coming. So
that's a great point.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out where that's going to be. We're doing a lot of analysis and making sure that we're not making decisions based on a roller coaster. We're trying to see what things are going to level out at and what we can absorb and what we have to pass on. So it takes a lot of analysis, and again, one of the things that we do is we try to treat people the way we want to be treated, and nobody likes a price increase, including us. So it's a challenge.
Nobody likes it, but everybody has to understand. we have this tendency that we hate it when customers badger us as service providers on price, but we also have no problem badgering our vendors on what they're charging. We've got to be cognizant of, it's a two-way street there. As we don't like it when customers ask us for a discount, and as a vendor, I'm sure you try to give the best discount you can, but when all your raw materials are going up, you're against the wall and you have to push things up. So I'm giving you the approval to raise the prices on everybody else except me. And but it's just, we just have to understand it's in the works, and everybody as business owners needs to understand you have to watch on your raw materials and on your cost of goods and fuel and everything else that's happening. So, man, thank you so much for joining us. What else? Do you have anything else that you'd like to go over, or anything you'd like to tell the people that are listening and watching?
No, basically, I think you guys are doing a great thing. I love the SureFire platform. I love the education, and I love the industry. So I'm so happy to be here and talking to everybody, and I'm happy to be part of this industry. And I look forward to continuing to earn the business of the people that put their trust in us.
Well, thank you for all your support. Thank you for being a good guy in the industry. I put your email up here, info@nesbestflex.com. Pierre, thank you so much. I know it's later where you are than where I am, and I appreciate you coming to us after a hard day of work. And let me check the comments, make sure I'm getting everything. There's just some other Tommy Venefro said facts on raw materials. Get ready for at least a 5% increase shortly. Yeah, we all see it coming. So, all right, buddy. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, and have a good night.
Awesome. Appreciate the opportunity. All
right. I will. All right. So thank you, guys. And now this next part of this conversation is going to be, it's just going to be me talking about some situations that I've seen on Facebook, and also just some questions on my podcast I had recently. I wanted to talk about how to have hard conversations, and I'm pulling my notes up here because and how to have with your employees, what to do when when you have to bring up a hard topic, or they're doing something that's driving people nuts, or they've got bad breath, or they've got body odor issue, or they've got some habit that is really messing things up. But it's not enough to just easily fire them, but sometimes you got to say things that are hurtful yet needed, and for us to get better. And so I'm just going to answer some of these questions before I get into my part. And it might be a little off topic, but Tommy Venefro said, greedy sweeps in my area have ruined the respect for a level 2. If you get enough people doing the wrong thing in an area, it gets tough to be the right guy. When we were moving, when we opened up an office in Charleston, not a lot of people were really following NFPA 8-11. And when we came in there and said, hey, we're following what the CSIA says and what the NFPA 8-11 says, but all my competitors are saying, no, you don't need all that. Those guys are telling you lies, and they're just trying to get your money. That's tough. And so what Tommy's saying, when a bunch of people come in there and do the wrong thing, that's hard. You just have to be tough. You have to show third party explanations. You have to show brochures. You have to show codes. Sometimes it doesn't even matter to them, but that's why education is so important. That's why these shows are important. That's why certification is important, and online training, and all the things are important, so that we all are at least talking on the same level. This crack in this area is bad. This size of flue is wrong. This clearance to combustible. We're all on the same page, and then we can compete from there. But man, when you're competing against somebody that says they don't believe in a level 2 on a real estate inspection, or they don't believe in a cracked flue liner, oh, it'll be fine, or missing mortar joint, it's no big deal. Like, that's hard to argue against and beat your head against. Let's see. Let me move through these things. So I think it's Carly or Carol. She wanted to know about pay structure for technicians. And I was talking, well, one of the things we talked about earlier was attendance policies. And I want to talk about that a little bit. I've talked about it before on my shows or on my podcasts, and also on some of the stuff that we did during COVID. But I want to go over it again, why I think some type of policy is important for your company to have around attendance. And I want to go how I did it wrong first, and then kind of how we do it now. And again, there can be multiple ways that are right. And I definitely don't want to act like this is the only way, and that there's, if you've developed a policy that is replicatable, that's what's important. And what I mean by that is not just how you feel that day as the boss, and if you're going to write that person up or reprimand them just because their story wasn't good, or you're in a bad mood, or whatever you decide to do, it has to be a policy. And I'm going to explain my policy. I got the policy from another chimney company, and I adapted it to my company that made the most sense for me. Whatever I say on this show, I would recommend you doing the same thing. If you like parts about it, take parts from it. Also, if you want my policy, in the chat, in the comments, put your email and put send policy, and I'll send you mine so you can see it. But I'm going to explain it, and if it's something that you think you'd want to implement, do it or let me know. But here's how it works. Basically, we run on a point system. You get so many points a year to be out, call out, be late, be sick, have an emergency, that type of thing. So there's a point system. In our case, it's 24 points. Your point could be anything, but in my case, it's 24 points that you get in a year to have issues, okay? Now, how that breaks down is, one, it's a rolling 24 points. So I'll explain how that works in a minute. But let's just say everything goes up in points as far as severity. So if you're late by less than 18 minutes, we have a certain time that you have to be there. In our case, it's 7:35. At 7:36 up to 18 minutes, 7:54, you will get 1 point for being late against your 24. If you're more than 18 minutes but less than an hour, you get 2 points against your 24. If you call out that day for any reason, you could have gone to the doctor, or you could have been, all kinds of things. It's 3 points. And so it's called a no fault policy. And the reason you would get 3 points, even if you had to go to the doctor, is because, one, I don't want everybody to have to go to the doctor every time they don't feel good. Life happens, things get in the way. And I understand some people are going to get points. I mean, it's just ridiculous to think they won't. And I also don't want to be in the judging of stories. So if you gave me a really good story, then I won't count points against you. And if I don't believe you, or you told me the truth, I couldn't get my butt out of bed, oh, well, then you're written up and you're in trouble. Like, I don't want to be in that game. My point is, if you miss, you get points. If you're late, you get points. I don't care if you blew a tire or whatever. Now, there are some exceptions. If you're in an accident coming to work and can prove it with a police report, I don't give you points. If we call off work because of weather, and I call everybody off, or lack of work, or some other company thing that everybody knows about, there's no points. If you ask off and I approve it, no points. But to move forward, if you no call, no show, that's 12 points. And at any point if you've already got, say, 12 points, then you do that, you're fired. So once you get 12 points accumulated in the year, you get a written warning. Once you get to 16 points is second written warning, 21 points is the final warning, and 24 points, you are fired. Now, that is a rolling 24. What I mean by, let's just say this is May, and you got 6 points this May. Next May 1st, those 6 points from May 2021 come off May 2022, so it rolls. So it never really starts over except for day one of the policy, but it's always rolling. And so we keep it on an Excel spreadsheet, and you just, when you gather points, or then the next year you get the points off. Also, let's see, Mark, we need to have a hard conversation about your home internet tonight. It's been good. Oh, so there's points to. Now, we also have, you get a point back if you're not sick or not late or don't call out for a month. You gain a point back toward the positive. And here's how the bonus structure works. If you, at the end of the year, the 1 year mark, when we have a date, if you have 3 points or less, you get a day off for every 3 points. So if you only got 3 points, that's a day. If you have 0, that's 2 days. If you got -3 because you're not late or sick, plus you gain points from not being late or sick during the month, so you're going in the negative, which is a good thing, you can get up to an extra week of vacation on my policy. Okay, that's the good. The bad is, for sure, if you hit 24 points in my company, it doesn't really matter who you are. Like, I've seen some people not want to fire people because they bring in so much money or something. Well, you can't. That doesn't work for me. The policy works because it's got razor wire around it. And the mistake I made was, at first, the first guys who were giving me problems on the policy, I didn't want to fire, and they got up to the warnings, and I gave them the warnings, and they got up to 21 points. And then at 24 points, I was going to lose some key guys in busy season. And I'm like, I can't fire these guys. One, I like that guy a lot, and I don't want to fire him just because he can't get his butt out of bed. And I didn't fire him. And so once you don't fire the first one for crossing the policy line, you can't fire the second one or the third one. And then now my policy is completely worthless. So it got out of hand. I think that guy that year had almost 50 points by the time we started the policy over. I was that bad. I liked the kid so much. He was honest too. If he said, I'm like, man, why are you late? And he's like, man, I can't get my ass out of bed, boss. I'm like, I appreciate that. I like that better than some crazy story. Plus, he's going through a divorce. He had all those kind of life cards that were dealt to him. But that's not, I can't run a business with a bunch of people who've got all those things happening all the time. This policy is super fair. So I restarted it. I said, guys, I hate this. I don't like policies, but I also can't run a business when Monday morning all these technicians are calling out and my office is going crazy trying to reschedule the customers. The guys who did show up to work get more work to do because that guy didn't show up, and now you got to do extra job or work late or run without an apprentice. Like, it just causes so much chaos when somebody calls out. That I said, I'm going to make this policy absolutely stick. Well, I did. The very first time it started happening in busy season, I saw the same actors being late. You're going to get fired. You're going to, warning, fired. Fired my first guy who was our number one apprentice. Everybody liked him, but sometimes we had to go pick him up from his house. Sometimes he showed up super late and the Chucks had already left. So I fired him. They were mad at me. My technicians were, because he was a good helper when he showed up. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't have it. Next guy that fired was another helper. Next guy that fired was a senior tech. Next guy, senior tech certified. And everybody thought I would bring them back because we were approaching busy season. I've fired 5 guys right around October, November. And at the time we had about 20 people. So I'd fired 25% of my staff at busy season for a attendance policy. But I'm telling you, once everybody got it, once everybody understood that it was real, we do not have an attendance problem anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's people that gain points, but we haven't had to fire over attendance in a couple of years. I had guys that haven't been sick or late in 5-6 years. I've had guys that get extra vacation every year because they just show up on time. And as a company, your whole company starts to warn the people and help them understand you got to be to work on time if you want to stay working here. It has really, really helped my chaos in the morning. There's no chaos. Don't get me wrong, there's still people that have real life come up and they're sick and their baby and they understand they're going to get points. There's no story issue. And if you live a regular life, you're going to have times you can't come in, no problem. It's only you should worry about it when it gets excessive. And so I'm telling you that it's been the best policy. But I can tell you, when I'm on my subject of hard conversations, this is one of the hardest ones to roll out, and really hard to fire people that, one, you like, two, they overall do a good job. They just create chaos, and they create a standard in your business that is it's not scalable. You can't let, as you grow, everybody just call out whenever they want for any reason, and there's no stipulations. So I've got several people that looks like they would like my policy, and I will copy this and send it to you. I'll tell you what, the person asking for pay structures, that's a big topic, and I will do that on another night. I'll show you how we pay, and I'll show you how some other companies that I've consulted with pay, and maybe even Chad can join me on this and talk about how he coaches a lot of people and see how they pay. So I will get into pay on another SureFire Live, but let me just talk about hard conversations. Let me just read a couple of these real quick. Cody Whitwood says, line them up, pull the trigger, don't look back. That's rough. They must do that in Texas. Tommy says, I was such a baby when I started this past season, just working guys on certain days for certain jobs. I needed help. I need the help as breast milk. Fazy says, what did he say here? Mike Fazy says, I got points on my second day. He's in trouble. Tommy says, would the points work if you only have 2 techs? For sure they would work. And that's a great time to start a policy, because you can, one, try it out on them and see how it works, but two, you're setting a standard. So when the new people come in, everybody that's run a very big business knows that it's harder to train the old guys to change than it is the new people that just understand that's how it is here. And so, Tommy, for your new company, I would definitely say start these policies and things that you understand. Whatever problem you have at 2 techs, imagine you have 15 techs with the same problem. Imagine you have 30 techs. If you want to grow a business, imagine your problems now and multiply that out, unless you fix it with a policy. So for me, these policies keep me out of judging stories and keep me out of being the bad guy. The policies here, we all agree to it. A lot of times I have my employees help me make the policies and adjust the policies, so we're all on the same page. We all agree the reason for the policy is less chaos, less extra work on the good people. It'll weed the bad people out, and the policy then is in place and everybody helps to support it. So let me go on to the hard conversations thing, because on my podcast this week, I was listening to a webinar on Dave Ramsey, and they were talking about how to have some of these hard conversations. And I don't mind having hard conversations anymore, especially with employees that are damaging, my team or my company or something. But one of the thoughts of it was, the problem doesn't get better unless it's addressed. So whether it's attendance, or whether it's tapping your pen all day long, or clicking your pencil, or smacking your gum, or you've got body odor really bad, or you've got whatever needs to be addressed, it's just not going to get better. And you don't get better by hoping it's going to get better. You don't get better by hinting it's going to get better. You just have to address it. You just have to go right at the person and say, hey, a problem's been brought to my attention. I need to talk to you about it. Might be a little bit uncomfortable, but we need to talk about it. And I've told a couple stories before about how I've done this, and I'll say them here. So if you've heard about me talk about my time in the gym, about the guy who was stinky, you could pause it or go get yourself a cup of coffee. But basically, here's what happened. I go into a gym. I'm working in there, and I'm working out. Small gym, real small. Guys in there working out and stinks to high heaven. You walked in there and it was just terrible. And everybody would move to the next room where he wasn't and work out on the ellipticals or the treadmill. So I moved over there like everybody else did, and we're moving along and running. And then next thing you know, he moves in and gets in the treadmill right next to me. And man, as he starts to run that room, I was about to gag. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. So I go out and I go to the management. I said, hey, this guy has got a bad body odor problem. What are you guys going to do about it? Have you talked to him? Like, oh, heck no. Because the guy's like 6'2", 6'3", Russian, big, muscular guy. And like, he was scary to look at. So I said, I'm going to say something to him. And everybody's like, oh, please, Stoner, don't say something to him. This is going to be bad for you. And I said, I have to say something to him. I just have to do it. I can't avoid it. I've got to go in and say something to him. And I go in, and everybody is kind of watching from the door and watching me go into this room. And he's curling something like 500 pounds a piece, something 120 pounds each. And I said, hey, I'm Mark Stoner. I'm Mark. And he goes, I'm Igor, or there's some true Russian name. And I'm like, hey, he goes, I said, hey, I got to tell you something. And I said, I got to tell you, you've got really bad body odor, and you need to take care of it. He's like, really? I said, yeah. And he goes, I didn't know that. He goes, I took a shower. And I'm like, well, it's bad. And he said something funny. He said, do you think other people are talking about me? And I said, well, I'm not sure, but maybe, because people move. You watch what they're doing. They move away, and you need to take care of it. He's like, I had no idea. And he said, I will. And I saw him many times after that in the gym, and never another problem. So I have to think that telling the guy the hard thing probably helped him in relationships. It helped him with probably his job. It helped him with social interaction. He just didn't know. He needed to have somebody tell him the hard truth. That was me. It helped him. Now, there's been times this has gone terribly wrong for me too, and people have been mad, but I will tell you the hard thing. Had another quick story. I had another employee that had very bad breath. And when he was in the van with the other technicians would complain that it was so bad in there, they just had to roll the window down. It was terrible. I went to him. I said, hey, man, we've got to do something about your breath. I said, it's really a problem. And he's like, I'm scared of dentists, and I don't know what to do. Really nice, sweet person, but just terrible breath. So I brought him Listerine. I brought him a water pick, toothbrush. I said, man, I need you to use all this stuff. I need you to go crazy, and I need you to use it every day, because I can't have you just making it bad on my whole team. He's like, okay, but it didn't work. He would come in. You could tell he used it, but there was something worse in there, and it would overload whatever Listerine or whatever you did. So I said, I'm going to make an appointment for you to see a dentist, a friend of mine that does like charity dental work. Send him there, and sure enough, he had an infection all up almost to his brain, all in his nasal cavity, and it was almost about to kill him, or could have killed him. They had to put him on 30 days of antibiotics before they pulled all of his teeth and gave him dentures. But literally, this kid could have died if somebody hadn't talked to him. He could have had brain damage from the infection, or who knows what could have happened. But nobody wanted to tell him the hard thing. And so I've learned that no matter what, to protect my team, I'm going to say the hard thing. So I see a little side conversation going on in the chat, and I you know what? I'll finish telling my stories, and I'll come back to what they're talking about. So it's like we got two things going on here, but I love it. Let me talk about a couple more things. Have you ever said something once to somebody and said, hey, we're going to do this, and they don't do it? And then you say, hey, I told you to do this, and they still don't do it. Let's just say paperwork, getting your paperwork in on time, or your estimates, or you're taking your pictures, or whatever, and they don't do it. I think part of that problem is we actually don't set it up right to begin with, because realistically, because you, the boss, or say you're going to change something once and think it's going to change, that's probably not realistic to think that it's going to change. And if you think, hey, if I tell them 10 times, that's too many. So we should probably pick a number in there somewhere that's realistic. I know the first time I said it, but it can't be, I told you once, I warned you the second time, and the third time you're fired. Unless it's really like a bad thing. Like, if they're doing something truly bad, yeah, they get one warning or no warning and they're out. But in general, most of the things we have to manage are small. They're little things. So part of that might be going into, as the owner or as the manager, with a realistic expectation that I'm probably going to have to tell them 3 times at least to get this behavior to change. I'm willing to go 3 times. The 4th time, now you don't tell them the first time, but you would set a process improvement plan that says, okay, I'm going to, here's what needs to change. Do you agree that let's just say tapping on your desk is driving everybody nuts? I know it's a nervous habit. I know you don't think about it, but truly, okay, so what do we need to do? Take the pencils away, get rubber tips on, like, what do we need to do? And I don't want to have to warn you about this again. I know it's not on purpose, but we need to stop it. Okay, and then they do it again, come back, hey man, you're tapping it. Why is that pencil on there? We're going all digital or whatever. The 3rd time, say, look, I'm now on the other side of being able to help you on this. I've warned you, you understand why. So my point is, as a manager, having a game plan when you go in to say the hard thing, to say what you need to change, that has to change with some kind of consequence that is appropriate to the issue. Another thing, that is, the person wants dignity. When you are having to confront somebody, you just need to make sure that they have dignity in the process. Nobody likes to be berated. Nobody likes to be hounded or put down. And so a lot of times, some of the language early on that you shouldn't use is you should do this. You should know better. You shouldn't. Like, that's not the best language sometimes in a situation where you're trying to get on the same side of them early to help them. If you're truly trying to help them, you say things like, well, what I've seen, what I've noticed, or what happened to me in the past with another employee or with me personally, I had this issue that you're telling them from your side that's not accusatory, but there's a lesson in there that you want them to learn. Now, don't get me wrong. There's times that you have to go right at them, but it's not most of the time. Most of the time, if you're truly trying to save the relationship, you don't use this language that I'm up here and you're down there. You should do this. You better do that. Like, that's not the right thing at first, especially when they have no idea what you're going to say and they didn't know they were doing something wrong. Another thing that I hate is what they call shit sandwiches. And maybe I have to put an E on this broadcast, but you know what they mean by that. When you come in and you're trying to build somebody up and you're trying to have a hard conversation. So you start with something nice about them, and then you say the hard thing, and then you finish with something nice, something that, hey, we can do this. We're on the same team. We can fix it. Something that's nice to end. My problem with that method is that a lot of times the employee misses the real message. I would rather shorten that up. If I really want to, and some of it's the way you sit. Like, if I am one to help you and be on the same side as you, I'm going to try to sit at a round table and I'm going to try to sit next to you. Or I might stand next to you in the hallway or bring you out in the warehouse and we sit there and talk because we're on the same side. We're trying to fix stuff. If it's mission critical and there's the situation has gone red and we're about to be done with it, or I will sit at my desk, behind my desk, you sit on the other side of the desk, and we have a hard conversation, because at that point I'm not necessarily on the same side, but how you set up this difficult conversation can be very important. 99% of my conversations, I'm sitting at a round table and I'm sitting right next to you and we're trying to figure out how to fix this. But on the shit sandwich thing, if it's something hard that I need you to remember and change, I'm going to end the conversation on the hard thing. This has to change. Do you understand? I don't mind if the conversation leaves kind of hard and not feeling so great, because if I'm really trying to do the right thing, I need them to understand that they need to change this or they can't stay working for me. Now, if I want to brag on them, or I want to high five them, or I want to promote them, I'm leaving on that. I might say, look, I've got one thing that I need you to fix. And it might be the hard thing, one of the hard things, but if I want to end on the positive, I'm going to end on the positive. So we go away from that. And if there was a negative, it was kind of a warning shot or across the bow kind of thing. But if I want to end positive, I end positives, if that makes sense. So that's how I have conversations that are really clear and get the best results possible. None of these methods are perfect. Nothing works for everybody. I've gone into stuff that I thought was a light warning and ended up changing a guy's life, and he completely quit and bailed out on me on a warning. I've had guys that I went in to fire. They didn't realize what I was really concerned about. They really listened to me, and their whole life has changed. And I've got a guy like that in my business now that was on the verge. He seemed checked out. I just thought I was doing him a favor. I said, man, go be happy somewhere else. Go do something else. You seem totally checked out. Well, he had a lot of other things going on, but he had no idea I felt that way about him. And I'm telling you, it's been one of the most amazing turnarounds of a person in a person's life. And our whole company sees it, that he really changed. And that's all him. Part of it is me helping him understand that he had a lot of gifts to give and he was keeping them inside. He has a lot of potential if he'll just realize it and get out of his own way. And man, the guy has, and it's very inspiring to me. I know you can't help everybody, but man, when you truly do help somebody, there's a magic to it that you hope that you can do that for other people, and you hope that other people will take your advice and build up and get better. I know I'm running over a little bit. I got a couple more things before we close out, and I'm also going to get into a little bit the comments. I noticed the comments stopped, so maybe we're just listening. But if you're still with me, say hard conversations in the comments so that I know you're still with me. Okay, so another thing I like to do is bring notes to a conversation. I like to, and really what you should do is have it very succinct. Don't have, thank you, don't have a million things you want to tell them. To have it written down and you say, a very short sentence, here's the problem that we need to address. Make it so that, and you've got notes on it, because a lot of times you'll say, oh, when did that happen? And you're like, well, remember the other day. No, I got a date right here when you did it. I've got paper. I've got, I've got your, picture of your paperwork where you did it wrong, or you know what I mean? Like, have some notes and be able to refer to it. I'm telling you, when you sit down, thank you guys for responding. A lot of comments back and forth. So, but this to me is the hardest thing. One of the hardest things in leadership is having these little dumb conversations that you're like, why do I even have to tell you to take a bath every day? Why do I have to tell you to show up to work on time? Why do I have to tell you not to look like a freaking slob or wear our company uniform every day? Why is this even a conversation? But guess what? It is. It's part of the deal. You don't get to have a different experience than I do as a leader. You get to have the same experience. You get to have the same dumb conversations that you shouldn't have to have. You can't even think of all the dumb things that are going to have to happen that you're going to have conversations about. But guess what? It's just your job. As a business owner, as an employee, we're here to always get better. And sometimes these hard conversations are big life changers in your employees and in you. Because think about it, you probably never, if you look back on your life on the hardest things that have happened to you, you probably learned from them. The hardest thing was a turning point, and you said, yeah, you know what? If it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't be here. If it hadn't been for this super crappy situation, I wouldn't have changed this to make it to where it is now. So understand, sometimes firing somebody is absolutely one of the best things that you can do for them, because then they can fix the thing. Larry Winget on one of his things on Facebook said, if you rob people of consequences, if you take away the consequences, you rob people of the chance to get better. And I think that's true. And also, if you don't have consequences, you will lose your best people. You will absolutely, because the good people can't stay with you. If there's no consequences for being good or bad, why do the good people be good? They're like, hey, Mark, if you're not going to punish them for doing this, why do I do it? Why? So you really have consequences to save your good people. And then most importantly, when your good people know you'll stand up for them, and when your good people know you're there for them and there is a consequence on the other side of that policy, you can start to build a real team of winners and a real culture on this is how we do it here. And you're not going to get away with that here. In my company, it used to be, well, if you tell Mark you're sorry, and if you really are sorry, and if you really make him feel for you, he won't do anything to you. And that was true because, man, if you gave me a good story, I believed you. I have a big heart for people, especially people hurting. And if you're hurting, man, I want to be the one to help you. Well, some people are hurting and they do need help. Some people put themselves in harm's way all the time and need rescuing. And I can't be that for those people. But man, if you need a hand up, I'm your guy. But if you keep needing a hand up, it's probably on the other side. And now that I recognize that, I'm pretty good at helping them either get up or they got to move on, because I've got a bunch of other people that need me to be my best every day. And I can't let them take all my energy every day and just drain me. And then I have nothing for my good people. So there's a couple things here. Tommy says not everyone's wired like a leader. Tell me what you mean. That's very true. Not everyone even should be a leader. I wasn't wired like a leader for a long time. I would rather be a follower behind a good leader. I'll back you up. I got your back. I'll be the guy, right? I was a drummer. And so the drummers are almost never the leaders unless you're like Megadeth or Metallica or some bands. But in general, the drummers are just part of the team. And that's the place I like to be as long as the leader was good. But when the leader was bad, and in my situation, as I grew the business, I had to grow my leadership skills. Tommy also says they don't think the same. They never had to, or just never became habit to conduct life or business in a certain way. Fact. Tommy says, thank you for all the comments, Tommy, too. Thanks for being in this. Maybe I need to hire people, but with low expectations and with the understanding that if I go another season alone, that's okay. This way I don't cater to bad behavior like I did past season. That is so right. You're better off going slow and getting rid of the bad people than you are trying to go fast building with a crappy team. Because a couple things, it'll ruin you, it'll sap your energy, it'll cost you a fortune, and really importantly, you could be endangering people, you could be endangering your customers, you could be endangering your name, and you're endangering your culture. So whatever you allow to happen in your company is your culture, whether you like it or not. If it's not what's said in your company, it's what's tolerated that is the true culture. If you tolerate it, that's really who you are. Just because you say it, man, that's the easy thing. If you tolerate it, that's who you really are. And then Bob Fauna says, I need to hear this message today. Great stuff. Man, there's just times when we as leaders and as people, man, they just let us down. They hurt us. They crush us. And as leaders, we need, and that's part of what, the Chimney World thing is too with Chad, is that we want to celebrate people and build you up and give everybody, social media can be so terrible, such a terrible place that everybody just gets withdrawn. But you know what? It can be also a great place that we celebrate each other and we try to build each other up. And it's a place that you go that, that you can, you can ask questions. You can say, look how stupid I was at this. You can do something and it's safe. And again, on the hard conversations, you need to have a safe place for people to have conversations with you. It needs to be psychologically safe to have a meeting with you. If it's scary to have a meeting with you every single time people have a meeting with you, that's a problem. Because if it's scary to have a meeting with you, then you don't know how many people aren't talking to you that you really wish would. That's happened in social media. I saw it happening when everybody was just hammering on everybody. People stopped talking. Well, they got real questions, but they don't want to look stupid. And that can happen in your business too. Make sure you don't build up a toxic environment that people can't ask questions or make mistakes. In my business, I have no problem with mistakes. If you make mistakes, I really don't care. Try not to make the same one over and over, but don't be negligent. Don't be and don't be dishonest, and we will get through it, and you'll have to learn a skill. This business is tough. A couple more questions. Tommy says, wow, mind blown. I'm not sure what I said that was good, but I agree with your struggle is super real. Hardest it was ever for me was 3 trucks. Chad right here says, but don't give up, Tommy. Keep looking. 100% right. Tommy says, if you look at my social media, you'd like I had a cakewalk, or you think I had a cakewalk. Meanwhile, I had an SUV with baby car seats and soot on all of them. That is so awesome. And I can't tell you how many guys were that. I remember driving a totaled truck around I got in an accident right after my divorce, and I was hauling chimney. I had a trailer and I was hauling cement, and I hit a car and it hit another car. And my ex-wife had canceled my insurance. So I had to pay for all those cars and drive a total truck for a better part of a year till I got them paid off and had money. I've taken my kids on job sites. I love what you just said, Tommy, because there's a lot of people that have been down that road. Chad says, I used to have a mild heart attack. This is Cody. Every time I saw Chad come up, my caller ID, he took me a bit to realize he's a teddy bear. Yeah, I mean, that's a good relationship. And I need him to respect me, but I don't need him to be fearful of me. But there's times when they know they're wrong. They do need to be scared. But guys, this has been a great talk. I know I've gone about 15 minutes over our normal time. I hope you guys got a lot out of the hard conversations and how to have them. Let me make sure I did not miss anything. I want to make sure we did. I think that's good. I think I covered the big parts. And again, the fact that the problem doesn't get better unless the problem is addressed is what I want to leave you with. So, guys, that's our time. I hope you enjoyed SureFire Live from the hotel room. Should be back at our regular scheduled place. And we will talk to you next week. See you.